So, hi Ailbhe. We've been having a good laugh before we've officially started, haven't we?
We have. There's nothing like, being back in the real world of performing and seeing your colleagues to just inspire laughs and all that kind of stuff.
I
I've seen,
know all the.
I'd say, 100 people this week, which is definitely more than, than normal.
That is amazing. I'm kind of really jealous, even though I'm sure it's been super busy and crazy.
Yeah, it's nice though.
Seeing other
It
people.
does kind of feel like real life, even though we're all spread out 2 meters apart and all that kind of stuff. But it kind of feels normal. And playing operas and having everyone actually that whole big sound of an opera, like everyone's happy. You know,
Great. Oh,
it's great. Yeah. Long may that continue.
yes, indeed. So the other reason it was great to have a little uh, laugh cello chat before we've embarked on this is because I was practicing Popper 38 like madly for an hour before we met, trying to get it up to speed, and my thumb needed a break. Very, very intense
Yeah.
hour of practice there. But man, how did you get on with this one, Ailbhe?
So, this is quite funny because we were recording all week for 6 hours a day. So there's not really a lot of time to be practicing after that, just hand wise. So your fingers don't fall off. So I was very amused by the fact that I had 5 minutes before every break to practice this. So it really focuses the mind, when you have to meet Katie your day off and fire off something. So it's weird. Obviously, the octaves, they're great. You have to practice the octaves and try all that nice and slowly. I'd say you did some fabulous practice and that kind of stuff. Getting a really balanced hand in your octaves, so nice and relaxed, and then practicing just the octaves. That jump was never far enough for me. I never actually went high enough because you're trying to do it in. So I like doing that slur over so that I'm actually just focusing on the left hand in the middle, first and foremost. And whenever that was actually in tune, along with all of those, particularly that high one.
Say, I mean, that's exactly the way I practiced them, was with that slur and those two places, that high bit. That fourth is just a nightmare. I mean, I think also like hierarchy of practice, right? Like if you regularly, play like octave scales and some sort of repertoire you're doing, that's going to be a little bit more familiar of emotion, but the leaps are going to be less common, especially up there. That fourth is, I think, like, practicing those a lot more than you practice the rest of the octaves is
big time. And for me, even to just get my head around the beginning, getting up to that F sharp, often I'd just be a tiny bit flat. So practicing just that. Once I was there, then I felt like I was kind of on the way. But really feeling the release, because there's so many octaves in this piece, you have to really feel that, similar to number 13 that we were talking about, that you have a little bit of octave release as we go along. I then, because I had very limited time, spent a lot of time practicing in rhythms. So, for example, I tend to do 6 different rhythms. So I do. That rhythm, so it's 1, 2, 1, and then the other one. And then if that doesn't work, I'd go back to. And go back and fix the one before. So you can wait as long as you want. And then the 4 rhythms. Which needs a lot more attention, as it turns out. then 2, 3. I also noticed the shifting backwards wasn't as efficient as shifting forwards. I don't know about you.
Yeah. God, that's such a great idea. I wish I'd thought to practice this with rhythms, because I practice almost everything with rhythms.
Yeah.
But for some reason with the octave leap, I mean, I did find the backward shifts harder, but what's interesting is I don't know if I'd be able to sustain something this long in octaves, but I feel like if I was playing both notes at the same time, it would actually be easier for me to find. So I found what was really challenging was actually the fact that you have to maintain this hand position while doing the string crossing. I don't know why. It shouldn't affect it, but clearly it does for me, and it's probably mainly because when I practice my double stops, I'm not practicing a string crossing version. So I found that fascinating, just how much like that simple thing with the bow affects this.
Hugely, and it also makes you think about your practice then, whether you should throw in a bow thing for coordination. So I would have done because that coordination alone, just getting the bow you really have to have that in top shape so it doesn't affect what's going on the left hand.
Oh yeah. Also the slurred one, did you do it in, I can't remember if in both editions it says that, but the upper half thing,
Yes.
I think that's really, I mean, it's one of those things of like, how small can you get this motion? You have to be super efficient with that string crossing. My arm's not in the shot, but it's really easy when you're panicking to flail more than you need to, and you just will dig yourself a grave if you're doing that. So, I wish I'd spent time practicing this with rhythms and more of just the right arm. That was very good advice, Ailbhe.
Well, thank you. I actually was laughing because in my rhythm practice, if I was at home, I would have time to do it really efficiently. There's no point practicing rhythms if they're not exactly clean. It's not yada-da-da, yada-da-da, yada-da-da. I'd obviously be a terrible flute player with my terrible diction. But at home, I'm incredibly anal about how I do that. But when you're, in rehearsal, everybody's listening to you do this, it's not deemed polite to be practicing hard stuff in a rehearsal.
Yeah.
People think you're showing off. Now, nobody would have thought I was showing off with this particular thing because it really didn't sound good at the beginning. But I just was like, I'm just going to do this. I'm going to do the rhythms before every single one. And people were laughing at me, and that's totally fine. And then it improved slowly. It was less horrific as the days went on, and it was, I'd say, maximum 15 minutes practice per day. But
wow.
I don't know whether it's more efficient to be able to start off and do it really slow yourself. That speed would have been way more efficient. I did notice that when I got to this, it was just less efficient straight off than the other one. So I could have done with a few more days practicing rhythms on that. But I did notice that the bow stroke is all the same. So it's all clockwise, the whole thing.
That's good. Yeah.
Which totally saved me because I find the change, that change is really hard to do fast. Whatever you're in. And then for me, getting down, actually doing the string crossings fast enough for it to just sound nice and even. It's a real challenge that if you don't think about your bow circles, it's going to be awkward. It's awkward anyway, right?
Yeah, no, it is an awkward, and I have to share a story that I was practicing this morning, and my partner was on a work call in the kitchen in the next room, and he had to go upstairs because they were like, "What is this torture that is happening here?" And I think it's important to remember that with this one because, like, even if you're like nailing it, which I'm not saying I was, but even if you are, I think this is one that just kind of sounds like, a bit horrific. It's a bit like, demons from another planet, this study. And I think the strength of learning this is that, like, I mean, that Baron Rader book lists a bunch of different pieces that this helps for, like elfin taunts and, different, like, at the fountain, all these, like, show pieces that are fast. And I've played some of those, and this is way harder. And they don't, this is one of those studies that it's going to be so beyond the actual technical control you need in those that it makes those pieces seem easy. That's what I think. If you were actually going to play this presto and, like, perfectly clean, I would say, like, it's really important. When I was younger and I was trying to get, like, fast things up to tempo, I would be like, okay, I started at crotchet equals 50 and I worked it up to 60, and then today I'm going to start at 60 and work it up to 70. And unfortunately, I think, like, learning doesn't always happen linearly like that with our body. So every time I took this out, I played through the octave pattern once, like, really slowly. And I think it's important to do that a lot because the accuracy of all of the stuff, I mean, at least for me, the accuracy of those octaves relies on that, like, slow practice as well. So even if you're getting it, like, pretty fast, I think it's good to go back and check. And it's also not like you've, regressed necessarily,
That's a brilliant thing to discuss, actually, is that slow practice is never wasted.
Yeah.
But at the same time, that's why I actually love the rhythmic thing, because you can actually do... Okay, I'm going to hang out here for a minute. And I just have to get from here to here. Maybe a little faster. Lovely. And then I'm going to get ready for my next bow. Good. I'm ready. No, terrible. Lovely.
Yeah.
So you have a chance, but you're still practicing the fast motion that you need, because obviously staying at a slow pace doesn't help this eventually.
Yeah.
The octave thing that you suggested is brilliant at a slow pace, so you're, like, really showing where your hand goes.
I mean, in a way, what you're saying with the rhythms, it's very, like, stoppy-starty bow, because it's so, when you're practicing that way, you're giving yourself information, right? So, like, if you immediately know if that shift, if you nailed it or not. Is it sharp? Is it flat? Boom. You have, like, all this information, and you just fix it. Plus, I think practicing those rhythms, it's so good for, like, getting the sense of anticipation that you need in your hand when you're playing this fast.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I love it. It's funny when you get to that area, you're like, woohoo, party!
I know. I'm always like, whoo, all right. And then I have to remember to still concentrate because, yeah, you just, like, you've arrived. Also, again, like, this one's super repetitive, which is great, but playing it through by the end, it is a whole different ball game. Once you've done those octaves, 3 or 4 times, it's like, woo.
So, being all open confessions here, I haven't played it through yet because I didn't have time to practice that kind of practice this week.
That's okay.
So, we'll see. We'll see whether I die or I live.
I have no excuse, and I've only played it through once in its entirety, so,
I'm very impressed. But I'm not surprised. Like, it's madness for the hand. What did you think of that middle bit? So, of course, all of those, like, it's the coordination. See, for me, I found I needed a slightly firmer bow. Just to coordinate exactly with my left hand as well.
Yeah. And again, like, stoppy-starty, I practice a lot of that stuff whenever I have chromatics. I mean, also with rhythms would be great. I mean, another thing, too, is, it doesn't say, but one would assume from the tempo of this that all these strokes are spiccato off the string. But I did experiment a little bit with, like, maybe the chromatics could be, even though they're dotted, they could be staccato on the string just to create a little bit more like of the pitch. But
Yeah.
I don't know how successful I'll be with like the actual organization though when I get to that point in the playthrough. But I was gonna ask, do you do for this? Do you do that fingering, or do you do 3 3 3?
So
Fourth.
I was going to ask you the same question. So I learned both because me as a chancer would always do 3 3 3 3 like that, but it's less tuning efficient, I find.
Yeah.
But then I practiced this other one, da 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 da, and when I had to do da da shift 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 when it goes into the 3 fast ones, I just thought, this is rubbish. I mean, you probably are much more efficient at that kind of thing than me, but eventually I was like, right, it's just less to think about for me.
Yeah.
And I've enough to think about later. So I'm going to take the easy road and play it in tune, hopefully.
Well, that's the whole point. It's all about what works better for your hand. I mean, that fingering, and I guess that's the Baron Raider one, this...
Yeah.
I mean, that's something that you look at on the page and you're like, what the hell is this? This is like, goes against every principle of efficiency and and that's the thing. Sometimes there are fingerings that work and they're like, they don't make sense from a logical thing, because I would always tell students and stuff, you want to look for the most efficient thing. But, it is a pattern, and I think like your body can do really well with patterns. Plus, I think for me this Baron Raider fingering ended up being more efficient or more accurate than this, and I totally would always go for that previously.
Yeah. That's why I changed to that and practiced that the whole time. It was only this morning when I was practicing this that I went, I don't have enough time left to practice that fingering, even though it would probably be more tuning efficient in the long run. So I went back to it and I tried instead. So obviously the issue is you need to have 2 tones and a small, and then you need to have a small and 2 tones. So you need to get your brain organized early enough to go 2 tones small, small 2 tones, 2 tones small, small 2 tones. And that was faster for me this morning. Now in the playthrough we'll see how efficient it actually is, but then we'll know.
Then we'll know. And that's a great thing. I mean, it's so good what we're talking about, I think, generally, because, 2 important things, I think, to take away that have nothing to do with the study. Number one, what you've demonstrated in your practice, in rehearsal, is that, we're working, living, professional musicians, and I think it's important for people to realize you can make progress on these studies without sitting down and spending 2 hours a day on them. Like, it's all about your focus and making a mental commitment to something in a certain way. So I think that's great. Also, you're so brave to practice this in a rehearsal. I mean, I don't know how much people realize how scary that can be sometimes, too, because everyone's listening to you. And for me, I certainly practice a different way when people are listening than when I don't. So props to you for that.
I suppose I had got to the stage where, yes, it's embarrassing sometimes, but then time is money. So would I rather today arrive with not enough practice done, or feel a little bit ashamed in public? So considering I knew all the stuff I was actually recording, this was kind of, I suppose people were probably wondering why I was sitting inside during breaks rather than, taking the breaks during the recording. But yeah, it is hard, but you can do amazing things in 5 minutes. That's my thought. Really can.
Yeah. Well, you're living it, Ailbhe. And you might find a fingering that you, in the piece of repertoire that you play over and over again in your life, that's great and you're always going to use. But a lot of times we have to, change depending on, how much time we have to prepare something. Or, you might say, okay, let's say 6th Suite. That has all those crazy optional notes, and you opt for a certain ossia fingering for one day, and then it just depends what you're preparing something for. So
if you hurt one finger and you have to avoid that a bit, that's a real
which you're also living, it looks like.
Yeah, calluses when they go wrong, you know, this is what happens. But
Oh, yeah.
so good, mutant calluses. It's a good thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Should we give it a
Yeah. Do you?
Yay! Woo! Nice!
Woo.
Woohoo!
Oh man.
That's so funny. I mean, I know I say
Wow.
it every time, but that piece, wow, performing that.
Cool.
Wow, your stroke of the it's just so like butter. Beautiful.
Was it? Oh, thank you. Do you know? I have to say, I did contemplate having a protein shake before playing this.
I'm
It's
not
like
surprised.
it's really physically tiring
Yeah.
for both arms.
Yeah.
This is what makes playing La Boheme look like a piece of cake. And
Actually, it does.
I mean,
We're doing this madness. Does actually, I mean, La Boheme feels pretty comfortable.
this, so.
Well, this is the thing that I think we were discussing beforehand is that, if you come back and you're playing solos in La Boheme, like there's loads of cello solos in there, and normally it's been a year since I've been playing in front of a whole new bunch of people. So if I hadn't been doing this with you, I'd imagine I would have been, sweating and kind of, you have to practice that performance vibe as well. And this is what we're doing, and it's really practicing it with some hard stuff, and that matters because we won't lose that skill. And this, you really see it. It's great.
Having to not only play under duress, but do it with this like insane attention to all the technical things that only work if you're like that level of person. I mean, that's so good, I think, for performing because a lot of people can perform with great energy and all the rest, but it's also how much of the work you've done can you channel into that performance. So I think
True.
go you. Woo!
and then trying to like relax enough that you're, just let it happen.
Easier said than done, man. Anyway, go us! Woohoo!
I mean, this rocked, because actually a lot of people are afraid of this one.
Yeah, myself included.
Yeah, I think when I saw this first, I was like, really? But, actually, it's great to have done it and to have learned how to do it and figured it all out. So that's really quite cool. And I'm very proud of us.
Me too. Yeah. Woo, high five.
Woohoo! Super. It's just really,
Cool.
really, really good. Really enjoyed that. Super.
Yeah, me too. Much more than I would have ever thought I could enjoy
Me
Pauper
too.
38.
Me
So
too.
go us.
The way to do
Super
it.
well done, Ailbhe. Yay.
You too. Okay, we'll see you next time.
See you next time. Bye.
Bye.